breaking new information and more smoking gun evidence about special counsel Robert Mueller's corrupt and extremely biased team of liberal political crusaders that have one singular mission, and that is to destroy your elected president, Donald Trump, and unseat the commander-in-chief. Now, they're trying to create a constitutional crisis that will threaten the rule of law in this country. So tonight, right here, we have new and more smoking gun evidence that Mueller's hand-picked minions are a bunch of Trump-hating, Hillary-loving partisan hacks that are carrying out what I describe as a witch hunt. In an email released by Judicial Watch, Mueller's top attack dog, Andrew Weissmann, told former acting Attorney General Sally Yates he was so proud of her. This after Yates defied a direct order from the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and refused to defend his travel ban back in January. Now, this comes as we are learning more information about Peter Strzok. He's the former FBI counterintelligence official we were telling you about last night that was fired from the Russia investigation for sending those anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages. Tonight, Fox News has learned that the Department of Justice is in the process of now turning over Strzok's text messages to the House Intelligence Committee. Now, it is expected to happen in coming days. Now, Strzok is a key player, and he is tied to several of the high-profile cases we've been covering, including the Russian probe. That means Clinton's emails, the anti-Trump dossier, the Pfizer surveillance of a Trump campaign associate. Now, tonight, what we're going to do, we will peel back the layers of this very complex onion. We will expose. It will be easy to see just how crooked and corrupt Mueller and his appointed team really are. Their conduct is something you'd expect in a banana republic, not the United States of America. There is so much fake news and misinformation in the news outlets today. We'll do what we always do. We're going to set the record straight. We'll get to the truth. And tonight we'll explain and we will diagram all of these controversies and the corruption surrounding Mueller's team. Something you'll only see right here on Hannity. And also tonight, the liberal media is spreading even more fake news about President Trump, reporting that the special counsel issued a subpoena to Deutsche Bank for information about bank accounts held by the president and his family. Well, tonight, the president's lawyer is pushing back and saying those reports are flat out false. And Robert Mueller's witch hunt comes at a significant cost to all of us and you, the American people. The tab right now is nearing $7 million and counting. We'll cover all of that and much more in tonight's Breaking News Opening Monologue. All right, tonight, just like we did with Hillary Clinton's giant web of corruption, we are going to actually show you with charts just how corrupt, abusively biased, and political special counsel Robert Mueller and his team of so-called investigators really are. This is, on the surface, complicated. Stay with us tonight. We're going to set the stage. We will explain and break down everything for you. Let's start with the head of the snake. That would be the special counsel, Robert Mueller. Mueller's credibility is in the gutter tonight with these new discoveries. His conflicts of interest, his clear bias, the corruption are on full display. Mueller is frankly a disgrace to the American justice system and has put the country now on the brink of becoming a banana republic. Here's why. Robert Mueller, former FBI director under Bush and Obama, was first appointed as a special counsel to the Russia probe by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Rosenstein, longtime federal attorney, was only able to appoint Mueller because the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, you remember, recused himself from the Russia investigation. That was a huge mistake. By the way, he may want to unrecuse himself. Now, you might remember this came after Sessions and Rosenstein encouraged President Trump to fire then FBI Director James Comey over his inappropriate actions in the 2016 Clinton email investigation. Well, as it turns out, James Comey, guess what? He's very good friends with Robert Mueller. After years of working in similar roles, well, some have even described the duo as, quote, brothers in arms. Isn't that so cute? Now, Comey also tweeting tonight he is meeting with his book publisher. Oh, I can't wait for that to come out. When's he going to start working for fake news CNN or conspiracy theory TV MSNBC? We'll have more on that later. But back to Mueller. His conflicts of interest do not end here. While serving as the FBI director in the Obama administration, Mueller stood by and did nothing while the controversial sale of uranium was approved by Hillary Clinton and others in 2010 to that state-owned Russian energy company. Now, keep in mind, a year and a half before, the FBI FBI had serious evidence of Russian bribery linked to the Uranium One sale, and a confidential informant was providing them further proof for 6 years of a potentially illicit deal. 20% of America's uranium was at stake. We don't have enough uranium. Another important Mueller conflict. It stems from President Trump. Remember, he reportedly interviewed Mueller to be Comey's replacement as the head of the FBI? And ultimately, President Trump, he went in another direction. He gave the job to Christopher Wray. And finally, one of the biggest examples of Mueller's faulty, clouded, biased, abusively biased judgment is who he chose to staff the Russian probe. Now get this, at least 8 of the 16 lawyers that Mueller appointed to his team donated to Democrats like Obama and Clinton, including thousands of dollars to these campaigns. Not a single attorney Mueller appointed or hired donated to the Trump campaign or any other Republican presidential campaign. Which brings us to our next chart, where we expose members of Mueller's team from their clear political bias. One of Mueller's top lieutenants, who some have called a legal pit bull, is none other than Andrew Weissmann. We'll have more on him later in this monologue and show, but first, it's important to point out Weissmann gave $4,300 in political donations to Democrats, including Obama. And as you can see, we filled out the chart. All told, Mueller's corrupt band of Clinton lovers, they've been responsible for over $50,000 in donations to Democrats. We're really supposed to believe that they're fair and they're unbiased in this investigation? Next up, former top FBI counterintelligence official Peter Strzok. As we're about to show you, as we told you about last night, his tentacles touch just about everything. Now, there's more stunning new information about Strzok tonight. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's lay the foundation. According to a report, this was yesterday, Strzok is a member of Mueller's special counsel team that signed the document that officially started the entire Russian investigation witch hunt. We learned yesterday this Trump-hating, Clinton-loving agent oversaw the FBI interviews of our former national security advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, where he supposedly lied. Sarah Carter, who'll join us in a little bit, is reporting that Strzok personally interrogated Flynn himself. And Fox News also learned that it was Strzok that was fired by Mueller over the summer for sending the anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages to his FBI lawyer girlfriend. Well, we just discovered tonight that Strzok's girlfriend, Lisa Page, also was on Mueller's team before leaving. We didn't know that yesterday. And from there, it gets even more shocking, as our own Catherine Herridge is reporting. Strzok played a very key role in the Clinton email server investigation. Now, this politicized FBI official even participated in the July 2nd, 2016 interview of then former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, where conveniently she was not put under oath. Now, this part is brand new tonight. Strzok was also present at FBI interviews of Clinton's top aides, Uma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, where they claimed they only knew about the server after Clinton left the State Department and it became public. He loves the Clintons and everybody around them. And it turns out emails from 2010 and 11 show that both Abedin and Mills did in fact know about the server. So either they misled the FBI or flat out lied. Where are the charges against them? And why were they spared? And Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, why was he charged with lying to the FBI? A massive double standard. And it gets worse from there. Fox News has confirmed that Strzok changed the language. He was the guy in James Comey's draft memo exonerating Hillary Clinton from grossly negligent behavior to extreme carelessness. That's letting Hillary Clinton off the hook. Remember, they wrote the exoneration before the investigation. That means the fix was in. Gross negligence is part of the legal standard that would mean Clinton broke the law. They stood up for her. They defended her. They protected her. This is shocking, and this is why the Office of Inspector General is now reviewing Peter Strzok's role in the Clinton email server investigation. Now, Strzok's involvement extends to other key areas of this Russian probe. Keep up with me here. There's a lot of information, like the anti-Trump, fake news, Russian propaganda dossier that used current and former Russian government sources to try and smear then-candidate Trump with salacious lies and influence the election and mislead you, the American people. And a source is now revealing to Fox News that Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, he's the key witness that Congress wants to talk to about the anti-Trump dossier. McCabe was scheduled to appear before Congress Thursday, but now is saying he's not going to show up. Now, McCabe is also thought to have been the key point of contact to the former British spy, Christopher Steele. He's the guy that created the fake news anti-Trump dossier that was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC that Donna Brazile says she was running. And we can't forget, according to multiple reports, a political action committee with ties to key Clinton ally, Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. They're like best friends. Well, they gave $500,000 to Andrew McCabe's wife, Jill. She was running for the Virginia State Senate race. Now, Virginia's Democratic Party also contributed over $200,000 to Jill McCabe. Wow, the connections are stunning. And finally, House investigators, they believe that Strzok is the key figure in the Pfizer surveillance of a Trump associate on the campaign. Now, that makes a lot of sense given FBI agents' background in counterintelligence. And also tonight, and finally tonight, there's Robert Mueller's top deputy. Pay close attention. This particular minion is known as Mueller's legal pit bull. We're talking about the hard-charging prosecutor, Andrew Weissmann. He has a long history of using highly questionable, unethical tactics to get convictions. There's new information tonight, and it highlights Weissmann's rampant anti-Trump bias. We'll get to that in a second. Before we do, you've got to understand who is Andrew Weissmann. Now, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett has dug deep into Weissmann's background. Here's what he has found. Back in 2000, during the massive Enron scandal, Weissmann was one of the prosecutors on the task force that brought a very controversial obstruction of justice case against the giant accounting firm, Arthur Andersen. This is important. Weissmann's actions put that company out of business. Tens of thousands of people lost their jobs. In 2005, the United States Supreme Court overturned Weissmann's obstruction of justice conviction in a unanimous 9-0, nearly unprecedented ruling. But it was too late. He had already inflicted maximum damage to so many people. Arthur Andersen was not the only victim of Weissmann's aggressive tactics. The conviction of a business transaction between Enron and the financial firm Merrill Lynch, well, that sent people to jail. But guess what? They were innocent. That decision was reversed by the Fifth Circuit, U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Weissmann has also been accused of intimidating witnesses, making up crimes that don't exist, and in one case, withholding evidence that was exculpatory, that helped the defendant. And Weissmann is also tied to that corrupt Uranium One deal and the Obama administration cover-up. Why did Mueller ever appoint this guy? He knew his track record. And back then, Weissmann was in charge of the DOJ's fraud section during the Russian bribery scheme. And as Greg Jarrett points out, Weissmann actually signed the bottom of the plea agreement from the Russian businessman involved in that case. Now, here's the new explosive information we have tonight. In an email released after a FOIA request by Judicial Watch, Weissmann, the guy I'm telling you about, he told the former acting Attorney General, Sally Yates, an Obama appointee, he was proud of her. What was he so proud of? Yates denied a direct order from the president. Her boss refused to defend the legal constitutional travel ban back in January. Weissmann's email reads, quote, "I am so proud. I am in awe. Thank you so much. All my deepest respects." Pretty unbelievable. Shows where his political bias is. Also tonight, your mainstream media, they're corrupt. They continue to spread fake news, all in an attempt to destroy and damage this president day in, day out, hour after hour, minute after minute. The latest example involves reports that a special counsel, as he issued a subpoena to Deutsche Bank for information about bank accounts that were held by President Trump and his family, well, tonight we learn it's fake news. President Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, he shot down this erroneous reporting with a statement that reads, quote, "We have confirmed that the news reports that the special counsel has subpoenaed financial records relating to the president are false. No subpoena has been issued or received. We have confirmed this with the bank and other sources." This is just another reason you, the American people, should never trust this destroy Trump corrupt media. And finally tonight, Robert Mueller's political witch hunt comes at a massive cost to all of us, the American taxpayers. Now, from May to the end of September alone, Mueller has spent nearly $7 million of your dollars on his crooked investigation that has now turned into this political fishing expedition. Remember, this all started as a probe into possible Trump-Russia collusion. There's been zero evidence So far, none, zero. It's been almost a year that this ever happened. And the media, Russia, Russia, Russia. So now Mueller and his political lackeys, they're trying to dig up any kind of potential wrongdoing to justify their existence. This is a massive waste of money, and you, the American people, are paying for all of this, which is an attempted political takedown of your duly elected president. It is a direct threat tonight to the rule of law, to our Constitution. And tonight, this all now begins to end. Joining us now with reaction, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. He filed the FOIA investigation request. Also, investigative reporter Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst. We count on him, obviously, a lot. Greg Jarrett is with us. Tom, let's start with you. And it wasn't only Weissman who's praising a woman, an Obama holdover, that disobeyed a direct order of her boss, the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Yeah, there were other lawyers in the Justice Department, senior officials, one in the financial fraud section, former U.S. attorneys who ended up getting fired, in retrospect, quite rightly, by President Trump. But Weissman, it's very serious because he is the #2 under Mueller, and he was praising misconduct by the former acting Attorney General Sally Yates. She was fired, quite rightly, by President Trump for refusing to follow his direction to defend a lawful regulation, this temporary ban on immigrants from several countries. So this is a real concern for anyone who wants fair administration of justice out of the Mueller investigation.
Is he like Strzok, compromised? Is he a Trump hater? Because I interpret that as being a Trump hater and a Hillary supporter.
Listen, you praise lawlessness against President Trump. I think it's fair to say you don't like President Trump. And he shouldn't be anywhere near this investigation. And it's strike two in the least for the Mueller investigation. We've got Peter Strzok. Now we have Weissman. And if I were General Flynn's lawyers, if I were Manafort's lawyers, I'd be screaming to the courts right now, what is going on here? Why hasn't this been disclosed? Strzok, by the way, he was fired back in July, Sean.
Unbelievable.
And Mueller and the Justice Department, his nominal supervisors at the Justice Department, withheld this information from the American people in Congress. And I tell you, it's at the point where we may need a special counsel for the special counsel. That's how out of control things are.
Sarah Carter, you began this all last night with this guy Strzok and literally, him being removed. Now we find out tonight that the girlfriend is removed, and we find out that the #1 hitman with the most atrocious, unethical background and record and failure, Andrew Weissman. Why was he ever appointed by Robert Mueller with that background? A 9-0 decision, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Well, I think what's most stunning here is his relationship with Sally Yates and the relationship among the people inside the Department of Justice, that they felt so comfortable sharing these emails with one another on their office email accounts. And not only that, think about the relationship he had with Sally Yates. I think there's a serious conflict of interest here, according to a number of sources that I've spoken with in law enforcement, in the intelligence community. They've said, look, she was after Flynn from the beginning. And if he is this close to her and he has this much respect for her based on a decision where she basically went against the President of the United States, this should be called into question. And, Tom isn't the only one that keeps saying there needs to be a special counsel for a special counsel. I'm hearing that a lot right now.
I am too. Greg Jarrett, you are saying tonight in a column that Andrew Weissman must resign or be fired immediately. I don't even know. Why was this man even hired with that atrocious? He wrecked tens of thousands of people's lives. Innocent people went to jail because of Andrew Weissman. Robert Mueller had to know this.
Of course, because Weissman worked for Mueller not once but twice as special counsel for the FBI. They're longtime colleagues and friends, which is why Mueller hired him, and maybe hired him because Mueller knew of the hidden political agenda that Weissman harbored. Look, not only should Weissman be fired immediately, but the entire staff of Robert Mueller is rife with corrupt motives and political prejudice. It was entirely stacked against Donald Trump. And so what should happen now? Mueller should be dismissed. The entire staff should be fired, and a new special counsel should be appointed.
Who can do it?
Well, Rod Rosenstein could do it, but he won't do it because he's conflicted as well. He's both prosecutor and witness in this case.
These people all are together in everything.
The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who recused himself from the case, should unrecuse himself for the sole purpose of firing Mueller and the staff and appointing a new special counsel, and then disassociate himself from any of the oversight.
Tom, respond to that.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Mr. Mueller is being treated as if he's king of the Justice Department. He's got this enormous budget. I guarantee you there's no other investigation that this Justice Department is conducting that has the resources allocated to it that Mueller has. And it's being used for what? To investigate mortgage fraud? To investigate a penny ante perjury charge that was a result of an ambush interview by an enemy of the president and a supporter of Hillary Clinton? President Trump should order the Justice Department to fire Mueller. The Justice Department has had their chance to rein this guy in. They haven't taken it, and the president needs to exercise the constitutional options he has to protect the American justice system.
Between the role of Strzok, Sarah, and the role of Comey and the role of everybody else here, Comey writing the letter and Strzok, you know, editing the letter, they were exonerating Hillary before they did the investigation. That renders that investigation meaningless to me. Amen. Where's the Attorney General? Where's the special counsel to do a real investigation? Because we know crimes were committed in this particular case.
Well, and I think what we're going to see, Sean, is the Inspector General's report. We're going to see parts of that report before December. We're going to see other parts of his report coming out after January. And they are looking at Peter Strzok. They're looking at Comey. They're looking at 27 leakers. It would not surprise me if there is a shakeup at the FBI and house cleaning.
I'm hearing rumors it's coming as soon as this week, perhaps.
That's right. I'm also hearing the same, and I think that one thing that we're lucky with here is that the layers of this onion have been peeling back, and we've been able to get information slowly, but we've been able to get information that's exposing it for what it is, and I think that's the most important thing right now.
And it really, I've got to lay the foundation, then give the new information. So this is complicated, but it's obvious what's going on. Greg.
What's astonishing is that one man with a political agenda exonerated Hillary Clinton and then simultaneously launched the investigation
really because it was really
against
Strzok
President Trump.
And Comey. That to me is obstruction, isn't it?
Well, of course, it could be. If Comey and Strzok ignored incriminating evidence and instead decided to clear Hillary Clinton for political purposes, that is obstruction of justice. And there ought to be a case brought against them if that happened.
It's a national disgrace.
It is.
What the Mueller's team is a national disgrace. It is a travesty of justice. It is a travesty to exonerate somebody for political purposes and literally before the investigation is done. I'm just out of time.
Sure.
We'll have you all back. I promise. We're not letting up. Now, when we come back, we'll talk to Harvard constitutional law professor. We don't always agree. Alan Dershowitz. He has a strong warning tonight for Robert Mueller. Also breaking tonight, we have new charges have been filed against that illegal immigrant who killed Kate Steinle on that pier in San Francisco. Will justice finally be served? And the president keeps a massive campaign promise about Israel. We'll check in with Ed Henry, and we'll go to Washington for the latest details. Straight ahead.
This program is brought to you by Togs.
And gun charges against Jose Garcia Zarate, the illegal immigrant responsible for the death of Kate Steinle. Now, he was acquitted of murder and voluntary manslaughter last week. We'll have more updates throughout the night as the story unfolds. Also tonight, we are following another big story. The president is following through on a major campaign promise involving one of our closest allies, the state of Israel. This is big news tonight. Ed Henry is live in D.C. with the details. Ed, as a big supporter of Israel, I've known for years, I believe this is the right thing to do. What's happening?
Well, Sean, you're right. It's very controversial, but a campaign promise kept. At 1 p.m. tomorrow, the president will announce at the White House that the U.S. government is officially recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And he will direct the State Department to begin the process of moving the U.S. embassy there from Tel Aviv. This upends decades of foreign policy by American presidents in both parties that these issues would be settled by peace talks. It's widely popular, as you noted, with our key ally in the region, Israel. and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who today praised it. But in a phone call, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas expressed his displeasure, saying this will hurt the peace process and possibly injure the prospects for the internationally endorsed two-state solution. While Jordanian and Saudi officials warned this may provoke the global Muslim community, which some experts see as a veiled warning that another intifada could erupt. Though all of this talk of grave consequences was rejected by the president's national security advisor, who says this move can actually help the peace process. Watch.
There are options involving the move of an embassy at some point in the future, which I think could be used to gain momentum toward a peace agreement and a solution that works both for Israelis and for Palestinians.
Now, you saw from those pictures that some Palestinian protesters tonight are burning photos of President Trump, among other things. So just in case, the State Department is warning American diplomats and their families to avoid Jerusalem's Old City and parts of the West Bank. Meanwhile, Vice President Mike Pence, we should note, is set to arrive in Israel for an official trip in just 11 days. Sean?
All right, Ed Henry in Washington. Thank you, Ed. Joining us now, the author of the book, Trumped Up, How Criminalization of Political Differences Endangers Democracy. Harvard Law School professor Alan Dershowitz is with us. Professor, good to see you. Thanks for being back.
Thank you.
Let me go to this story. It's too important. It's an issue I know you and I have agreed on over the years. Most Americans, I doubt, know. We give the Palestinians money. The Palestinians pay families money of those who kill Israelis and Americans. That is outrageous waste of taxpayer dollars. Thoughts?
Well, it's worse than that. It incentivizes murders. But I think that President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel is the perfect response to President Obama's outrageous orchestration of the Security Council resolution, which he pushed through as a lame duck that declared the Western Wall to be illegally occupied territory, the Hebrew University, the Hadassah Hospital, the Jewish Quarter. According to this resolution that was basically pushed through by Obama, these are outrageously flagrant violations of international law. The best response to that horrible resolution is for the president to say, we don't accept the UN resolution, and the best proof of it is we're going to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. You say it's occupied, we say it's the capital. Perfect response.
Agreed. Let's go to Democratic Senate and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary, Dianne Feinstein, claiming an obstruction of justice case is forming against the president. You've had very strong reaction to that. Is it possible? People cite Nixon. They cite the Clinton affair. Is there any obstruction of justice, and can you cite that against a sitting president?
Well, those cases both support my position that you cannot charge a sitting president with obstruction of justice if he simply implements his own constitutional obligations under Article 2. What happened in the Nixon case is they charged him with obstruction of justice for telling his subordinates to lie, for destroying evidence of paying hush money. In the Clinton case, they cited him for obstruction for telling witnesses to lie. Here, what they're saying is the president committed obstruction of justice by firing Comey, which he had a perfect right to do. Comey said that himself. And if he were to pardon somebody like Flynn. But you cannot hold a president criminally responsible for exercising his constitutional authority. Remember, it's not only the president who has this kind of immunity. Senators have immunity from prosecution. Judges have immunity from prosecution if they perform their constitutionally appropriate actions. That's what our system of checks and balances is all about.
Let me ask you about this particular fact. You have this guy Strzok. Then you have, I believe, somebody, I find his record atrocious, Andrew Weissman, and this team that Robert Mueller has put together. In the case of James Comey and this guy Strzok, how can you possibly be drafting an exoneration of Hillary Clinton before the investigation was ever not only ever completed, but the key people in the investigation, including Hillary, weren't even interviewed up to that point? How is that possible, and does that mean that needs to be relitigated or reinvestigated?
Well, first of all, Strzok should have recused himself. Even if other people didn't know about his tweets, he knew about them. He knew he had a bias against Trump and in favor of Clinton. He should have recused himself. Look, I'm against using the criminal justice system to target political enemies, whether the political enemy is Hillary Clinton, whether the political enemy is Donald Trump. I want to see a ceasefire. I want to see us not use the criminal justice system as a weapon against our political enemies. I don't think Hillary Clinton should have been investigated and prosecuted. I don't think Donald Trump should be investigated and prosecuted. I think if you don't like what a candidate did, you vote against them. But you don't try to create criminal actions, whether it be espionage against Hillary Clinton or obstruction of justice against Donald Trump.
If you had 33,000 subpoenaed emails, or if I had 33,000 subpoenaed emails, and I decided I'm going to delete them, and I decided I'm going to acid wash the hard drives, and I decided that that somebody that works for me is going to bust up the BlackBerries, I think I would be calling you and saying, Alan Dershowitz, you may disagree with some of my politics, but I need you to defend me. I don't think any other American would ever get away with that. Isn't that obstruction?
Well, you mentioned the Arthur Anderson case. In fact, I think that was one of the issues in that case. You have to show a specific intent to destroy evidence that you know is under subpoena. What often happens is that companies routinely destroy documents, routinely do things. You have to show a very high level of specific intent. I don't think it was there in the Arthur Anderson case. I don't think it was there in the Hillary Clinton case.
Well, let me ask you, but if you delete 33,000...
I want to make sure we don't politicize criminal,
I understand. I actually think we've got to be careful. I'm not disagreeing with you in that. But if 33,000 emails are subpoenaed and you delete them, and then not only do you delete them, you acid wash and bleach bit them, and then you destroy the other devices they may be on, that doesn't show intention to you?
Well, you have to demonstrate the chronology. You have to show when they were destroyed, who destroyed them, what the chronology was. It's a very, very hard case to make. I just think, in general, we should not be looking to make criminal cases against our political opponents. We should leave that to the electoral process. If there are clear, unequivocal cases, like the Nixon case, then I think prosecution is appropriate. But in general, we should err on the side of leaving it to the political process rather than the criminal justice system.
Professor, thank you. Appreciate you being with us. When we come back, Catherine Herridge, she has an important, explosive new report on the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton last year, and also whether Peter Strzok gave her and James Comey gave her a free pass. That and more as we continue our investigation tonight on Hannity.
Another day at the office. Why do you put up with it?
Mueller probe, Peter Strzok specifically, we are learning more about his involvement in the 2016 investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. Our own Catherine Herridge has the very latest tonight from Washington. Catherine.
Sean, our investigative team reviewed this FBI summary of Hillary Clinton's July 2016 interview, and it shows that the same FBI agent, Peter Strzok, was part of it. Agent Strzok, who allegedly sent anti-Trump texts, weighed in on Comey's public statement just 3 days later that recommended against criminal charges, and he helped change the language in an earlier draft from grossly negligent to extremely careless. That's key because gross negligence is the legal standard under the federal statute 18 U.S.C. 793F, and it's widely reported that Agent Strzok also oversaw the review of Clinton aide Huma Abedin's emails that were found on her estranged husband Anthony Weiner's computer. That discovery led the FBI to reopen and close the criminal email probe just days before the election.
It's not good for the FBI, which holds itself up as a paragon of virtue, where there's no political motivations and we just follow the facts, that's all. And everybody knows that's not the case. The FBI is an organization of human beings with political interests, political calculations, and of course that happens.
FBI Director Christopher Wray, appointed by President Trump, will publicly testify on Capitol Hill Thursday. Sean?
All right, Catherine, thank you from Washington. Now, both of my next guests were involved with the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server scandal. Joining us now, former Intelligence Community Inspector General Charles McCullough and former Republican Congressman, Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Mr. McCullough, let's talk about you and the Clinton campaign planning to fire you over the probe and much more. Tell us about that experience.
Well, absolutely. In no uncertain terms, I was told numerous times that because of the probe, that she had intended, had she won, to relieve myself and the State Department IG, that we would be the first two to be let go in her administration.
Unbelievable.
In retaliation for what we had
And look
done.
at what we have now. Fix was in. You write an exoneration before an investigation. That is called fixing a case. That would send Sean Hannity and maybe everybody but Jason to jail, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's certainly, you're going to have clearance issues, you're going to have employability issues, and most importantly, you're going to have criminal issues for all three of those categories. Absolutely.
Former Congressman, well, you're a talk show host now. It's a far better position. Let me take you back July 7th, 2016. You interviewing, well, you asking questions of James Comey. This is critical, this exchange.
Did you review the documents where Congressman Jim Jordan asked her specifically? And she said, quote, "There was nothing marked classified on my emails, either sent or received," end quote.
I don't remember reviewing that particular testimony. I'm aware of that being said, though.
Did the FBI investigate her statements under oath on this topic?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think there's been a referral from Congress.
Do you need a referral from Congress to investigate her statements under oath?
Sure do.
You'll have one. You'll have one in the next few hours.
And that happened. Did Hillary lie? And what, James Comey, knowing now, he had long been involved in writing and drafting an exoneration of Hillary before he even interviewed her.
Yeah, no, clearly Hillary Clinton did lie under oath. I mean, when Roger Clemens supposedly lied under oath, the Department of Justice indicted him, but Hillary Clinton not so much. You also got to remember, one of the little-known facts there is that the Department of Justice, via the FBI, was handing out immunity like candy. And in those immunity agreements, they were not required to cooperate with government officials. You contrast that with General Flynn, who has to plead guilty and has to cooperate. So here you're giving out immunity. These witnesses had no obligation to work with government officials and investigators. And there are still, Sean, to this day, tens of thousands of documents, Hillary Clinton emails that have not been shared with Congress. They are still sitting over at the Department of State.
Unbelievable. Wouldn't you, Mr. McCullough, wouldn't you have to now redo this investigation, knowing what we know now about how the fix was in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's look, the entire campaign over and over was lying. There was collusion. There was coordination between the campaign, between the State Department, between folks on the Hill. As I have said over and over again, this was a very coordinated effort strategically by those three entities to misrepresent what was actually in those emails.
What do you make of Mr. Strzok, Congressman? And now we find out that he interviewed Huma Abedin and Cheryl Mills and all of these other people, and he had a pro-Clinton, anti-Trump bias. And then also he was part of the General Flynn interrogation, which we're now learning, in fact, that Peter Strzok did, the FBI perhaps didn't even tell him it was an investigation. What do you make of all of that? How could somebody that abusively biased and Andrew Weissman, with his atrocious record, ever be appointed by Robert Mueller?
Look, Peter Strzok's at the intersection of all of these players in all of these investigations. And it was so bad that Mueller fired him months ago, but has not cooperated with the House Intelligence Committee. They were not providing the documents. They were not going to make them, except for now that it's in the media, we're not going to make them available. Devin Nunes, Trey Gowdy have been trying to get at this for a long, long time. And he had this clear bias. Yeah, remember, he's having an affair with another FBI agent.
And she was on Mueller's
team. You can watch The Office. Michael Scott doesn't even get away with that.
She was
stuff.
another anti-Trump person on the Mueller team, we learned tonight. All right, thank you both. We appreciate it. We're going to stay on this. When we come back, Liberal Morning Joe, well, he continues to have emotional breakdowns, one after another, exposing themselves as the hacks that they are on that network. Later, you won't believe what Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi thinks is going to kill all of you and other Democrats. You're going to die.
Hi, I'm Duke Diver, manager of this resort community. I am Leo. Okay.
This Friday,
Did you move to Philadelphia?
Team are going to go to jail for the rest of their lives. Oh, think of it. Watch this.
Knowing them, I think they're shocked that the noose is tightening, because I don't know if they were arrogant or just incredibly unself-aware and really dumb about like what the job was about, how important it was, and how under the microscope every move you made would be. I think they just thought they'd go in there and flim-flam and riff through it. You know, and I think they're shocked that the noose is tightening and that people might go to jail.
You're exactly right.
For the rest of their lives.
The stress of it all. Joining us now, author and a Radio American talk show host, Dana Lash, civil rights attorney Daryl Parks. Yeah, it's so entertaining to watch the emotional breakdown that they're both sharing together every day in this national platform. I mean, it's almost, not quite worth watching just for the emotional catharsis you see every day. It's unhingement. They need group therapy right out there on television. Dana.
Sean.
Sorry.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why. What do they think they're going to get him on at this point? Because so far, Michael Flynn just did the same thing Martha Stewart has done. Sean, I'm going to tell you something. What were we all told a year ago? We were told that the Russians were storming the White House and that the Russians were controlling Trump and that they were conspiring together and that everyone was going to die in the streets, weeping and gnashing of teeth, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. And instead, Sean, what have we gotten? A repeal of the individual mandate, tax reform, we get to keep more of our own money.
Supreme Court
just
Justice.
Horrible things. Yeah, Supreme Court justices, good judges, constitutional judges on appellate courts, national concealed carry reciprocity going through the House. I mean, come on. I mean, we were told awful things were going to happen, and instead they got Michael Flynn on the Martha Stewart charge.
You know, I know you're a lawyer. Daryl, do you have a problem if they didn't finish an investigation that they're writing an exoneration letter? And are you concerned that Robert Mueller has put people with these histories of unethical conduct that have ruined people's lives on his team and people on his team that are pro-Hillary and anti-Trump? Does any of that bother you in the pursuit of justice, in the pursuit of truth?
Well, I believe that Robert Mueller is going to do a thorough investigation.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if these conflicts bother you.
No.
Yes. I know my question.
I think everyone has biases to some degree. You can't say that these people are biased.
So you can be pro-Clinton, anti-Trump, express the opinion. You could write an exoneration before an investigation, and as a lawyer, you're cool with that.
Listen, Sean.
Answer. Come on, Daryl, answer that.
Let the investigation go through. You have to let the investigation go through,
They wrote the exoneration
Let the facts come
before they did the investigation.
You're jumping to conclusions, Sean. Let the investigation go.
All right, Dana, quick update. I love how you're pro-Second Amendment. There's something big this week I want to get to say.
Oh, yes. And Sean, thank you so much for reminding all of your viewers about this. I hope that everybody calls their elected officials tomorrow, because National Concealed Carry Reciprocity is going for a vote tomorrow, Wednesday, on the House floor. This is something that millions of Americans went and voted for. Sean, you talked about it many times right here on your program. This means that your rights don't end where the state line ends. And this is huge. This is getting your rights back. And, of course, also with that is the Fix NICS bill. There's a lot of misinformation about that. That actually makes states comply with existing law. That's all it does.
When we come back, thank you both. That's tomorrow. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi is insane. We'll prove it.